First of all, I'd like to thank all the board members who are here today for hearing my point of view on this particular issue. The issue is the 22nd Amendment. Why we do not allow presidents to serve in office for more than 8 years. Now, when the 22nd Amendment was instituted, perhaps it was a great idea at the time, but currently I believe it is not. And I think it is holding our country back. I will explain to you why. The first issue is domestic policy. Different presidents have different concerns and different motivations, and they try to institute different domestic policies. In the 80s, it was trickle-down economics. Clinton took over, and he said free trade. George W. took back over, and he tried to make it, again, a certain kind of trickle-down economics, where businesses were given great tax breaks for keeping jobs in the country. Then Obama takes over, and he's completely on the other scale, where he didn't change anything that was currently going on, but he focuses more on healthcare. Now, all of these are great issues and great ideas, but when you don't stick to them and they change constantly, nobody sees them through, and they don't live up to their full potential. Now, as far as foreign policy goes, in the 80s, we were a very aggressive, posturing society with our nation intimidating. Now, then Clinton took over, and he had a very diplomatic foreign policy where he would sit down at the table with people and try and solve problems without any kind of conflicts or any kind of intimidation. Then George W. took back over, and it was back to the intimidation policy. Then Obama takes over, and it's back to the diplomatic policy. Now, if you were one of these countries we were dealing with, wouldn't you find it difficult to try and deal with a nation who changes their posturing every 4 to 8 years? That would be extremely difficult to deal with. How can we expect other nations to deal with us as a nation when we don't stay the same for more than 8 years at a time? Very difficult. Now, when it comes to the entire concept, try and think of it as a large shareholder in a company, and that company changes a CEO every year. Now, if that CEO is doing great, profits are up, costs are down, shareholders are making money, and then they fire the CEO after 8 years. Why on earth would you fire a CEO if he's making the company money? How does that make any sense whatsoever? A company would never do that. And that's what we are as a whole. Our nation is a company. We operate as a business. Now, our business should not fire their CEO after 8 years. Now, what I ask is that as the Board of Elections, you try to get the word out there on the concept behind why this is not what we should be doing. Why should we get rid of our president after 8 years when he's doing a good job? Now, I'm not saying to change the electoral system. Don't do that. It's a great system. The electoral system works the way it should work. The people, as a democracy, should elect their officials. But we should not have people telling us you can't elect this official because he's already served in that office. So what I would like you to do is to provide information with the voters who are in your area in order to appeal to them the concept behind, let's vote Obama in for 12 years instead of 8. We should have voted one of the Bushes in for 12 years instead of 8. Why would we get rid of a president that the majority of the country is happy with? If you are happy with that president as a whole, don't get rid of them. Keep them. They're doing a good job. And the longer they stay in office, the more connections they make with foreign countries, the more connections they make at home, the more they can see their policy through. It's going to be pretty difficult for Obama to see his healthcare plan through in 8 years. But if you gave him 12, he'd do better. If you gave him 16, he probably could make it happen. And then it wouldn't be such a hassle for everyone. The same would have worked for trickle-down economics or for free trade or for Clinton's foreign policy. But when you limit them to 8 years, then they have to feel like they have an 8-year deadline. Deadlines are great for motivation, but sometimes we go beyond that deadline. And the people who take over don't do it. So I promote to you that you provide information, pamphlets, stands, people to speak at your voting areas for the people who are there while they're there.